Welcome to Wild Breakaway with Wes Walz. I'm Audra Martin. Following Minnesota's come-from-behind win last night against the Devils, Bruce Boudreau surprised quite a few people today, completely changing his lineup from top to bottom. It paid off big time. The top line of Jason Zucker, Eric Staal, and Granlund, a huge night helping the Wild to a 4-1 win over the New York Rangers. They sweep the road trip and they're back in third place. Yeah, you look at the New Jersey game last night, the fourth line scored all the goals. I know Mikey Riley got a goal. Basically, the one line did it, and again tonight, one line did it. The Eric Staal, Jason Zucker, Granlund line was just awesome. It basically played keep away with the New York Rangers, a New York Ranger team that's going through a lot of problems. You know, they're trying to trade some players. I think during the trade deadline here through the weekend they'll be moving some players. But what was really impressive for me was the third period of these three games on the road trip. The Minnesota Wild had a 1-goal lead going into all three periods. All three third periods, and were able to put 6 points in the bank. They didn't give away any points. They played really, really solid, really, really smart, really, really disciplined, and they deserved the 6 points, and they got them all. So 2 goals and 2 assists, both for Granlund and Eric Staal, factoring in big time in the 4-1 win. Much better numbers from the Wild than we saw last night. Better night in the face-off circle. They're out shooting their opponent tonight. They go 1-for-1 on the power play. But again, the big story, Bruce Boudreau changing up the lines, and that trio of Zucker, Staal, and Granlund stealing the show in the Big Apple.
Well, to be honest, I thought the last time, every time Zuck gets on with Stalzy, they seem to generate something, and Granny had been in a slump a little bit, so I thought, you know, let's try it for a period and see how it goes, and then they were pretty good.
So here's a look at what's next for the Wild. They return home to take on the Sharks Sunday, then they will face Mike Yeo and the St. Louis Blues Tuesday night before they head back out on the road to take on the Coyotes on Thursday. So great momentum in hand, 6 points in hand before they come back home to take on the Sharks in front of the home team or the home crowd. And the Sharks, another team that's right there contending for a spot in the postseason. The Minnesota Wild. We've talked about it in the past. Sometimes those first games back after a road trip can be tough, so the Wild need to come out with good effort right out of the gate. Yeah, always tricky the first game back after a long trip, and I've mentioned this before. The first period, especially after a long trip, you need your goalie to be your best player a lot of times for whatever reason. You don't have your legs like you did on the road, so hopefully they can get good goaltending, get through the first period. A very, very important game against the San Jose Sharks. Brent Burns rolls into town, a former Minnesota Wild player, former teammate of mine. He would like for nothing better to come in here and score a couple goals and take 2 points out of St. Paul. He played a great game in San Jose. I believe he scored 2 power play goals the last time the Wild were in San Jose. So anytime a former Wild player comes into the building, whether it's Marian Gaborik or Brent Burns, guys like that, you got to be aware of them because they always want to put it back to their old club. So the Wild are going to need to be ready Sunday night. The Wild are one of the best home teams in the league, and now with all of this momentum from the road trip, seems like they've got a lot of good things on their side for that matchup with the San Jose Sharks. Hopefully it turns into 2 more points in the standings. We'll see if they can get it done on Sunday. We'll see that in the meantime. For Wes Walz, I'm Audra Martin. Thanks for joining us on Wild Breakaway.